What's up, YouTube? This is Michael bringing you his V Premium Sanctuary deck profile. I played an event. It wasn't that big. It was only like 20 people, but I managed to go undefeated in the Swiss rounds, and then sadly lost top 8 to Prism. That deck is really strong. It draws a lot of cards. I definitely recommend if you're looking for a cheap deck that's really good, pick up Prism. I know this is a Saintgard deck profile, but it's not a bad deck. Generic V starter. Just no other starters to play. I like Milius, all mile. We'll go with grade 3s first. Sanctuary Dragon. I can't recommend picking this guy up enough. He's a solid contender for decent premium deck if so much things didn't have disruption. But his first effect is if your opponent is grade 3 and you have a grade 1, his original critical becomes 2. He's just a 2 crit all the time. Really amazing because it's just a free critical. And then his second effect is at the end of the battle he attacks, you can counterboss 1 and rest your back row of 3 grade 1s. It has to be grade 1s, not grade 1 or less, to restand him, and your front row gains plus 10. So it's basically like you lose your boosters, but your front row gains a booster anyway, and you get another Vanguard attack. And this is 2 crits, so all your crits can kind of go to rear guard. Once they're at 4, you can just keep them at 4 pretty easily, as long as you hit 1 to 2 crits per drive check, and 4 checks not terrible. You can go Force 2 sometimes. I did it once or twice in the tournament, but it's not recommended because the Jewel Knight stuff makes it not worth doing because you want the extra Force marker for the extra power. I think Saintgard's good, but the reason this deck is so good right now is probably because of Ashley. And her effect is honestly what is holding up this clan in honestly both formats right now. It's just a really solid card. Its effect is Vanguard or Rearguard. At the end of battle, in attack, you can Soul Blast 2. Search your deck for up to 1 grade 2 or less Jewel Knight and call it to Rearguard. If she's on Vanguard, you call 2. So a lot of the times what I would do if I didn't have the ability, I would just ride this first if I didn't have the grade 1s or didn't want to put forth the grade 1s on board at the time, and just went Ashley for a multi-attack play. Because they don't hit defensives, you can kind of hit really well. If they hit defensives, your card on the force marker can still hit past it. And then on grade 2, even a defensive sometimes won't stop you if you kept your booster. Really amazing. And then when something's placed on top of her, you can counterboss 1 and give it a crit. So just constantly going kind of with it. All the new Jewel Knight stuff is when something's playing on top of you, get an ability. I can't recommend enough if you ever want to play Royal Paladin to pick up the 12 Jewel Knight cards. I know the engine's kind of a bit more expensive now, but I can't recommend it enough. It's one of the main things holding up the clan. Then we got for the Jewel Knight grade 2. Her effect is when this unit attacks, you can put 2 normal units back to the bottom of your deck and soul charge 1. She will then receive 5k, and when something's called on top of her, it gets 10k. So that's kind of how you beat past the defensives. So your main play will be if you have 2 Ashleys to ride the 1, call 1, and then call this out. It's just really solid. It returns your Jewel Knight pieces back to the deck. Soul charges 1 for Ashley. That pays for half the Ashley cost and just keeps the attacks going. Even on the other turns, like she's really solid on ThinkSaver, even Alt Mile. Like every deck likes this card. It's just really good card. I think it's the most expensive part of the engine as of recording this video, but I can't recommend these enough. Another card that's honestly good in everything is Knight of Conquest Wigstom. He's during your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Sanctuary Guard, he gets 5 for every grade 1 in your back row. So once again, with resting the grade 1s, you won't gain boosters, but he'll still gain the power of boosters effectively. That's not really the reason he's played and everything, but when he's placed, you can counterboss 1, look at top 7 for any grade 1 card, and call it to rear guard. The reason this card's so good is just a lot of decks have good grade 1s, like you can call the Sanctuary booster. Even in Alt Mile, you can ride this, call the Edith, and then get the Alt Mile to immediately turn your arrow online faster. It's just a really good grade 2. Once again, something I'd pick up just because it's good generically. The Sanctuary Guard effect obviously is better, but even if you're not playing Sanctuary Guard, it's still good for grabbing the grade 1. And then 4 of arguably the best grade 2 in Royal Paladin, Livaro. So his effect is, when he's placed from hand only, counterboss 1 to search a grade 2 and call it to an empty rearguard circle. But if you counterboss it out, you can soul boss 1 instead. So a lot of times you could ride this, get a grade 1 for free, soul blast 1, and get a grade 2 for free. It's just a lot of cards. It's basically counterboss and soul blast 1 for 2 cards on board, and it just helps the early game. When Heal Guardians come out, the early game will be a bit harder to manage, but sometimes you can still, if this gets a Sisyphus, it'll gain 5, so you can still hit past the initial 10k it gives, but it does become a bit weaker with Heal Guardians. We'll just go with the 1 of grade 1. Is Little Sage Marin. This slot can be literally anything. I just play the Marin because it was the last card I needed. It comes up sometimes. You can do an interesting play with Libero where you can play the Libero in front of the Marin to counterboss 1 and draw, and then Soul Blast 1 get a grade 2. Once again, getting extra cards for 1 counterboss, 1 Soul Blast. And if you want to play another grade 2, it's up to you. I just like the 1 Marin. I just think it's worth it. Then it's for Authoritative Knight Bazil. This card is the honestly main reason Saintgard is so good. It's when it's placed on Vanguard, you can top 7 generic search for a Sanctuary Guard or Wigstom, 2 cards you really want to see. And then when your Vanguard with Sanctuary Guard attacked, it gets +10 till end of battle. So it'll only keep it for its first swing, but remember when it restands, it gets +10 from its own effect. So it'll be base 23/23 before triggers or markers included. Also 2 critical, remember against the grip. But then, if you have no face-up damage, you can countercharge. So you can pay for Saintgard, you can go wild with your counterboss, then just have a free Saintgard effectively. But that effect only activates once per turn by card name. So even if you have 3 of these in the back, where you will only receive the 10 once. And it is only on your first Sanctuary Guard swing because it is not a mana ability. You must trigger it. It has no once a turn. It is only on your first Sanctuary Guard swing. Then just your generic grade 3 searcher. When this is placed top 5 for a grade 3, add it to hand, discard 1. His continual is one of the easiest to meet. It's just if you have no face-up damage. So going second, when you write it, it's 13. And then also, pretty much, you're in a grade 2, it's 18. It's 13. So 23 columns is pretty easy. The last Jewel Knight in the deck is the grade 1. It's counterboss 1, put a normal unit to the bottom of the deck, and soul charge 1, and one of your Jewel Knights get +5. This helps make your Ashley swing a bit better at first. So on a force, it's 28. And it's not once per turn, so if you counterboss 2, shove 2 to the bottom, it's a 33. +2 soul, so you basically pay for Ashley for 2 counterboss. And when your other unit's placed on top of it, you draw. That works on Vanguard, so if you ride this, and you ride the grade 2 of any kind, you draw a card. Only Marin is a bad ride in this deck. Everyone else is a Vanguard effect. This and Bettyzel are your best rides. Laurel Knights, okay. Then for grade 0s, I just like 8 crit. For draw triggers, draw PGs, you could play the Sentinel crit. I know I used to a lot, but I wouldn't really recommend the Sentinel crit. Maybe 1 and like a 3 split at most. But the draw does help out a bit. And then just 4 heals. Don't play anything else, obviously. In V, you kind of need heals. Heals are really good in V. That's Saintgard. Remember to like, comment, subscribe for more videos, and I will see you later with more videos of the deck.